Hey, welcome to the Life After Ministry podcast. My name is Matt Davis.
Hey, this is Marilee Davis, and we are here to wrap up the season.
Season 2. It feels like it's taken a long time to get here.
It's been a minute. Yep.
But we made it, and it's good. So, hey, in this episode, what we wanted to do, and it's funny because we're calling this a season wrap up. A season could be one episode or it could be 100 episodes, but we just kind of decided on every 14, 15 episodes, we'll just kind of pause and look back. And what are some of the things we're learning from the conversations we're having with outgoing ministry leaders, things that we're learning, even just reflecting on some of our own experience. But today we thought we'd bring you 8 things that ministry leaders really need in their transition. And as you think about our own transition coming out of ministry, we were very, very needy human beings.
Yes, we were. Very needy.
We needed all kinds of things. We needed a lot. So that's what we're going to jump into. 8 things that we found looking back, because I think when you're in the moment, you don't even realize what you need. It just feels a little bit disorienting and foggy.
Yes, I would agree with that. There's so much going on and there's so much change and worry and transition. Like, you don't know if you're coming or going. And I think it's only kind of in retrospect, looking back, where it's like, okay, we can see more clearly what we needed that we got, and then what we needed that we didn't get.
That's right. So this is our attempt to try to fill in some of those gaps. And I would say that everything that we are going to talk about here there are on-ramps for that. We are able to, really the Life After Ministry podcast is an avenue. It's an open door to be able to bring services to people who need them in all of these areas through our ministry called Pastoral Transitions. So that being said, let's do it. Ready for number 1?
I'm ready.
All right. Number 1, what we really needed in our transition was consistent community support. Why is that?
Well, because it's disorienting and it's a little bit lonely coming out of ministry, especially if you've been in the same place for a really long time.
Yeah.
So I think that, a couple of things tend to happen. Number 1, you kind of find out who your real friends are, because some people stick and can kind of handle the transition, and then some people don't stick. And so I think you learn who your people are, and you also learn who your people are not. And that's kind of hard. It's a hard lesson.
It's painful because there's an investment, there's a community, but when you leave that community, there's a vacuum. And when you go from that transition, going from a lot of community and a lot of interaction all day, every day, when your face is on a screen, when you have constant team meetings. I remember all the group chats. I was constantly text messages all day, every day was just sometimes it was obnoxious and you had to silence them. But you go to that from that to where have they all gone? I think that people there's a fear of whether it's a moral failure, whether they just kind of feel bad that they were a survivor. They made the financial cut, but you didn't. And there's
it's
survivors,
awkward.
right?
Yeah.
So I think we don't lean into that. And so if you're listening to this and somebody who's coming out, I would say don't be a stranger, right? We needed community support. We needed friends.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That was number 1. Number 2, and you can see we're going to move through these pretty quickly, and there'll be a resource link in the show notes that will be able to link you to some others in a little bit more deeper depth. But number 2 was affirmation of personal integrity and just worth as a human being. This is probably more for me than it is for you, but tell me from your perspective, why you think this was important.
Well, I think for men in ministry specifically, I think they struggle with it more than women do. I think that that for men, their identity is so mixed up in their job in ministry.
That's for most. It wasn't for me. I didn't ever struggle with any of that.
Oh no,
right?
never,
okay,
never. This was not an issue for you at all. I'm just purely talking about other people.
Kidding.
But because the lines are blurred between those, when you take a step out of ministry, all of a sudden, it's not just that you don't have a job and there's all the changes that come with that, but all of a sudden, I think for you, you were faced with well, who am I as a man? Like, if I'm not working and I don't have this job, like, so much of my worth and identity has been connected to what I was doing and my role in the church. It impacted like how you felt about yourself. It impacted how you saw your place in the world. And you were pretty upside down for a while with that. And it took a while to kind of untangle those strands of like, okay, what is actually Matt as a person, as a man? And then what is man, like, and then what part was your job? You know what I mean? And also because I think in ministry, often our hearts are connected to our ministry, that like blurs the line even further. It's not black and white. It's not cut and dry.
And this idea of like affirmation of still being a good man, because my exit coming out was a moral failure. I pretty much personally threw the baby out with the bathwater and said, I did something wrong and therefore I am wrong.
I am bad. Yes. I'm not worthy of anything really.
Right? Like not the position, not the title pastor, but really not as a dad, not as a, like it really. And so I remember, you remember this too. We did an intensive in Colorado, and I will say that one of my favorite movies of all times was Good Will Hunting. And that scene when Robin Williams and Matt Damon are in the counseling office, and Robin Williams looks at Matt Damon and says, "It's not your fault. It's not your fault." And he said, and there's this like resistance and this back and forth, to where like they're both bawling, crying, this big hug, this moment. Like I had that moment. Do you remember that moment?
I do.
Of like, and what?
I remember our counselor, Jay,
yeah,
telling you, Matt, you're a good man.
You're a good man. And I just shook
and
my
you're
head.
like, nope. You're like, I reject that completely. Like that can't possibly be true about me. And to watch over the next few minutes as he said it again, Matt, you're a good man.
He told me to stand up.
Yeah, stand up. He looked at you in the eye. He had you face him and look at him.
He had to squat a little bit because he's way taller than me, but
right.
Yes.
But the point is, like, you really needed those words, and those obviously were words coming from the Lord too. Those were restorative words. Those were words of grace. That okay, so you messed up, but you are a good man, and there's more to you than your mistake, and
it's amazing because I think just the human condition is when you're a pastor and everything's going really well, you think I am incredible and I am the best. And then when things don't go so well, you think I am the worst. And like, if only we could have this, like, we need to hear the voice of God. And so I needed that in that moment. So, and I just want to speak to like, if you are listening to this, if you are somebody who's coming out of ministry and it's because you messed something up, that you're still good, that God still loves you. And that's something that we need to hear. It's something we need to know coming out of ministry in that transition season, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Number 3, financial guidance and support.
Can I just add one more thing to that? I was thinking...
Is this like 2B?
Yeah, 2B, but also connected to what we were talking about previously about the consistent community support.
Yeah.
I think unfortunately sometimes because some people take a step back, I think it furthers that messaging of you're no longer a good man. You're no longer a good person. I no longer know, or like, I no longer want to be in connection with you because of the mistake you've made. And that says more about the people I think that are withdrawing because of that. But I think if you're in the season where you've made the mistake and then all of a sudden people that you thought were your friends and that you've been working with closely for years take a step back, don't talk to you, it cements further that message of I'm not a good man. Like,
Yep.
and I'm worthy of being cut off or shunned or something like that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I connect with that totally. All right. Number 3, financial guidance and support. Since we had years and years of savings accounts built up, we were totally fine we could float for a couple of years.
Look,
right?
I mean, here's the thing. If people are coming out of ministry, odds are they're not making a lot of money. Like, people don't get into ministry because it's known as being incredibly financially lucrative, right? Like, odds are
You're broke.
You're
month to month.
Or if you've been wise and frugal and you're living on a pastoral salary and you have savings, I mean, honestly, it's probably not a whole lot. Like, so I think people just need to realize, like, and we talk about this also, that pastors don't qualify for unemployment because churches are nonprofits, and most people don't realize that. So when a pastor, steps away from ministry, unless they've been given a severance package, that's lengthy, odds are they're going to be running out of money relatively quickly.
Yeah, the number one comment I hear from people coming out of ministry is it feels like the clock is ticking, and that runway is short. And honestly, it's a distraction from doing really a lot of the hard work that's needed in that season, because you can't, like, we have had people who have come to us and we've worked with them on behalf of their church, and they don't even want to get to the counseling piece. They're like, can we just put that on the back side of this process? Because I just need to find a job now. Right. And their heart really needs to be tended to. Their family really needs to be tended to in that season. But can we just find a job first, and then we'll get to that? Yeah.
And I think that goes back to the whole, like, being a man part of it. Like, for men, God has made them in such a way they are driven to provide for their families. And if they can't fulfill that role, I know that was true for you, and we've heard it, it's true for others too. Man, if you can't provide for your family, it's like you don't even have access to the part of yourself yet that really needs to do the deep work and the healing and process whatever it is you need to process, because you're first and foremost focused on, like, how are we going to pay the mortgage? How am I going to, put food on the table?
So if you have like a 403B, a retirement account, you're not sure what to do. Like, there's opportunity to cash that out. Do you roll that over into something? Like, you have all of these major decisions. And also, because you are a pastor in ministry, for the most part, we find that most of us don't really know. Like, we're not like playing the stock market, and we didn't take a lot of financial classes. We took, like, how to interpret First Timothy, right? Like, those are the types of things that we're doing. So this is not our skill set. If you are a board member, if you are an executive pastor and you're listening, like, there is financial support. And I remember one of the elders who was part of our process coming out told me probably 3 or 4 years later, he said, I regret a lot of things in the process, but I really wish that we were far more generous. Like, you really needed a year just financially. I wish we did that, even though there's all these even though, but I wish that we were far more generous there. It would not have hurt the church. It would not have hurt us, but it really, like, it was a hard piece for us. I think it did slow down, delay some of our process, because there was a lot of worry wrapped up in that.
Right. And I think this isn't just our experience. I mean, we have yet to speak with a pastor or someone coming out of ministry that felt like financially they were in a good place, that they had what they needed, to take the time to explore what their options were, what they were going to do next. Like, we've never spoken to someone who didn't feel incredible financial pressure.
Yep. Number 4, spousal support, family support, engagement. So a lot of times all of our focus, all of our energy, all of our direction is on the pastor, on the nonprofit leader, the CFO, those people who have actually lost their job or coming out of their job. How important is it that we pay attention to their spouse and their kids, their family?
Well, it's very important because it's all connected. And, you if you've been here, you've heard our story that, Matt's step away from ministry also meant a change of school for our kids, and ultimately ended up in an out-of-state move. So, I mean, there are huge ramifications for the family, and just realizing that, yes, the pastor himself or the guy in ministry is struggling with all of the nuances that come with stepping away, but so is his family. And honestly, sometimes he's not in a great place either. And so there's struggle in the marriage, there's struggle in the family, because there's a degree of instability that's been inserted into the equation, and that affects and impacts everybody.
Number one mistake that we have seen organizations, churches make in all of the conversations, had a lot of conversations of this last year, and it was an assumption of mine based on our own personal experience, but I'm seeing it being proved out, is that all of the communication is going from the organization to that outgoing leader, to that outgoing pastor, to the outgoing ministry leader. And there is no organizational communication to the spouse. I'm not saying that the elder board needs to go and talk to the kids in the ministry, but when that communication stream goes from the organizational leadership to that outgoing leader, and then it goes from that outgoing leader to their spouse, it does not go well. And we see, actually, I'd say like 8 times out of 10, the spouse is far more upset about what has happened than the actual ministry leader. And Mama Bear comes out, and we deal with men and women coming out of ministry, but 8 times out of 10, I would say that Mama Bear comes out and is really upset. And so I would say, number one, really make sure that and it might not be the person who's actually laying that person or firing that person, letting them go. It could be somebody else, right? It could be somebody else that is maybe a little bit less attached, but that spouse, that family needs to know, to hear, to have a voice in the process and not be overlooked, that we're just going to make all of our communication go to that person who's being let go. Does that sound about right?
Yeah. And I think, for the organization to be aware that, having someone check in with the spouse and just be like, hey, how are you doing? This has got to be really hard. How are you as a parent? How are your kids taking this? Like, what's it like? It's such a simple thing, but I think it's the simple little things like that make all of the difference in a family going out of transition, feeling cared for and seen in the process, or just kind of discarded and out of sight, out of mind.
Yep, absolutely. All right. That was number 4. This is number 5, professional development and coaching opportunities. You might find yourself moving into a totally different space, different industry, as if the church is an industry, but you might be moving into the marketplace. You might not have any skill set at all. I came out of ministry not knowing what a CRM was. I realized later on we had one, but we just didn't call it by that. But like I needed all kinds of things, right?
Well, and I think for our experience, like you just didn't see yourself very clearly coming out of this at all. And so you have so many gifts and such a great skill set in so many areas, but when it's only been applied to ministry, it's harder to see like the bigger picture of how this can connect in the business world, or in your case, it's led to a career in marketing, where it's all about words and messaging. So you're doing a lot of the same things that you did. You're building an organization, same skill set that you used as the executive pastor in the church. It just looks a little different. But I think you needed help connecting the dots of like, look, this is who you are. This is how God's made you. This is what it looked like in the church context. But look, you can do all these other things kind of using those same skill sets, using the gifts that God's given you over here in the marketplace. And it took a while to like bridge the gap between the two.
And that's the beauty of even just the guy that we founded this with, Bill Tom, has been a career coach and has been in the marketplace as a Christian for more than 35 years, has been with Fortune 500 companies and CEOs, and our assessments and the tools that we have built out, it's a reorientation to yourself, and it's saying, this is who you are. And then we help to coach and direct that to be able to say, this is how you go into an interview. This is how you talk about leaving your ministry job and taking your job description there and having it work and apply in the marketplace. And so there's a lot of skill sets. There's a lot of coaching and hand holding that's needed. And it's not going to come from your church necessarily. They're moving on. They're trying to figure out who's your replacement.
Right.
So that's where we get to step in and help out. And so we have a lot of resources along those lines.
I think just a quick shout out too to Bill and the assessments and the things that he has in place, and what Pastoral Transitions has been taking lots of people through. We actually had him sit down with our son, our senior in high school who just graduated, and go through these assessments to help him figure out, how are you wired? How are you gifted? What do you like? What do you enjoy?
Yeah.
And it's so helpful. So, it's just a great thing, whether you're coming out of ministry or whether you're trying to figure out what's next. But anyways, shameless plug for Bill and his assessment process, because it's super clarifying, I think.
It's the number one thing that we get asked, because we have to find a next job. Like, there's a survival piece. So it is incredibly helpful. All right, number 6, the sixth thing that we needed coming out of ministry that you'll probably likely need. How about let's go with legal and administrative support. You might find yourself having or being asked to sign an NDA.
Yes, that is happening in churches. Churches are asking people to sign NDAs when they fire them and let them go.
Yeah, so don't say anything. But it's not just don't say anything about the circumstances of what's going on, but you can't even tell your friends. We'll let you stay here for a couple more months if you don't say anything. And so now you're dealing with the grief of this, and you are cut off from your immediate community. So the question comes up is, well, do I have any legal recourse? What am I supposed to do if money is the thing? Like, how do you make a decision between signing the dotted line and making sure that you feed your family? How do you deal with some of those pieces? Was I wrongfully terminated? So you need a lot of support that's really outside of the scope of really what you know as a pastor. And there's usually a church lawyer or an organizational lawyer, and you start to ask the question, and not that we want to be litigious, but you want to be smart, right?
Sometimes weird things happen.
Yep. And so unfortunately we've seen it one too many times. We had a story of a pastor that was let go, was not able to go in their office, and it was not a performance issue. It was just I don't like that person.
They didn't get along, like didn't fit.
Well, I don't know if that person even still knows what happened, but they said, we will be moving your stuff. There'll be a moving truck, and the moving truck basically just dropped everything on their driveway and said, good luck. So if you have questions, how do you actually get some of those answers on a legal and administrative? Like, how do you handle contractual or legal matters in the process of post-ministry life? We have two more. Number 7, what we really needed was access to solid Christian therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I think therapy is always a good idea. I think smart people go to therapy. But certainly in times of transition, and especially if you're dealing with a moral failing or something that's obviously there's something going on with the person, the person in ministry that's been let go. Certainly there's something going on there. Certainly that's affecting family dynamics. And gosh, it just never hurts to have an outside person take a look at yourself, your life, how you do things, what makes you tick, why you do what you do. I mean, it's such a great personal growth tool, I think, in any phase or stage of life, but especially in difficult seasons, especially when you're trying to navigate a transition out of ministry, especially if it's been like a lifelong career in ministry.
Yeah. One of our partnerships is a Christian counseling center in Southern California called Emmaus Road Counseling Center. And the person who leads it, Jana Plant, she said, essentially, a therapist is a paid professional friend. It's that person who has a lot of insight, but they're there and they're going to be able to help you navigate the things in your heart, to be able to see the things that you're not able to see. But we really, like, for us and for some it might just be we talk to people and they'll say, like, honestly, I feel pretty good. Like, there's been something I've been thinking about. And look, baked into this conversation, embedded in this conversation, is not everybody's getting fired.
Sure.
Some people are making the decision like they're just kind of burned out and they're done, or some people are just like, I want to try something new. So there's a myriad and a scale and a range of why transitions happen, and obviously it's a lot easier if you're making the decision yourself to get out. And obviously it gets harder if that decision has been made for you.
Which I think is most of the people that we're talking to and connecting with. These are not people that are choosing of their own volition to leave, but something's gone down.
Yeah. And so we just need somebody who is going to see outside of our life. But even if you're coming out of ministry and there's not anything traumatic and you don't need marriage counseling, what we've suggested that I think has been very helpful for a few people they were surprised by has been just to sit down, even for 3 or 4 sessions, and to just make sense of this last season of your life. Maybe you've just been in that spot for 5 years, and to take inventory on what did God do in you and through you in this season, just to have a good, we do this
reflect.
Yeah. We do it at the end of a week-long missions trip. Why not do it at the end of a 5-year, 10-year, 30-year?
Yeah, that's so true.
Ministry career. So you don't look, if we would say anything to anybody, whether you're coming out of ministry, we'll tell our kids this, but you do not have to be messed up to go to ministry.
You mean therapy?
I'm messed up. You don't have to be messed up to go into therapy. It's very, very helpful to make sense of our life and to be able to have somebody else listen attentively to your story and to give you insight.
Sure. And we all have stuff, right?
Amen.
Everybody does.
Last one. Let's differentiate from therapy and move just into this area. Beyond therapy is what we'd call spiritual direction and guidance. What has been helpful for you in the role of having a spiritual director?
I think the most helpful thing for me in that is having someone kind of help you listen and help to discern the voice of the Lord and his leading into what might be next. It's different than therapy, also kind of connected. I mean, I think they can be interconnected, but in my mind, the spiritual direction is more of a specific inquiring of the Lord of like, what's next? Like, what do you have for me? And learning how to discern and hear God's voice in that, and then be able to follow him into whatever the next season is. I don't know. How would you?
I think we need a guide. I remember being in spiritual formation, sitting with a spiritual director and sitting there and saying, Jesus just walked in the room. He's sitting in the chair across from you. Tell me about what his face is telling you. And I was like, I've never thought about any of this before. Like the gaze of Jesus in this season of my life. Where is God at for me? With me? Is he with me in this season? And so to be able to make sure that our hearts are being dealt with, that we're listening in prayer. Like it's an interesting thing because I think a lot of times the pastoral life, the ministry life, honestly is not. It's not prayerful or meditative all the time. A lot of times, like for a lot of people in ministry, it's there's a busyness and there's a task list. It's not.
It's not as spiritual as you might assume it is.
Unless you've worked it out in your life to just be able to sit in your office and study for 40 hours a week and deliver a message at the end of it. That's not the case for most pastors. They're busy. They're doing house calls. They're going to hospitals. They're having to go to board meetings, lots and lots of meetings. And so paying attention to our own hearts is not something that we do. And so I would say that in our flurry, you had a counselor, I had a counselor, we had a counselor. You had a spiritual listening prayer spiritual director. I had a spiritual, we took it. We took all of the help. And I would say, praise Jesus, we are still here. We're still alive.
And better for it. 100%.
And better for it. God did not just something in our relationship, but in us individually.
Yes. Yeah. In our emotional health, our spiritual health and development. We always talk about the most important thing to us, whether it's in our marriage, as individuals, in our family, in our jobs. We just want to be growing people. And for better or for worse, a transition out of ministry is an opportunity to dive into being a growing person, because it's going to bring up stuff. It's going to trigger stuff. Anytime that there's a big life change, there's going to be a shifting and a sifting. And, anyways, I kind of lost my train of thought with that.
No, that's good.
But, it's an opportunity for growth if you're willing to take a deep dive in and do some of the work.
Yep. Those are 8 things. I'm sure there are more. We're curious, what do you think was most important to you that we just talked about, or like an aha moment?
Or did we miss something? Is there something big you can think of gap that we didn't consider? Yeah,
let us know, because we would actually love to add to this list and continue to grow on it for the benefit of those coming out of ministry, for the benefit of those who are in that process of making decisions, for those who are coming out of ministry. You can shoot those over to talk@pastoraltransitions.com and we'll respond to you and we'll communicate. So thank you for listening. We're 2 seasons in, and I tell you that we already have about 10 more episodes that are ready. They're in the hopper, ready to go. So we're so thankful to be on the journey. We'll be a little bit more consistent. Got some more help coming in, and really phenomenal people that we've had some conversations with for this next season. And so we're really excited about what that looks like. And if you know somebody who is in process, if you are a decision maker and you're trying to figure out what is the next step, then we would love to be able to have a conversation. Just start a conversation with us. Go to our website, pastoraltransitions.com. Happy to help. And if you find yourself in a spot where you're able to give towards this work, a lot of the people that we're coming in contact with have already been let go and don't have a funding source. And as much as we would love to just do all this for free, and actually that's a lot of what we end up doing, but what we really want to be able to do, the support, the full service support that we want to be able to offer has hard costs with it. And so if you are in a place that you are able to give, if your church is able to give, then you can do that. There's a donate button on our website as well. And we would love to be able to take that and use it to be a funnel to be able to meet the needs of the people who are there. So thanks for joining me, Marilee.
This was fun.
Yeah. We'll be back in not too long, and we will start another season. More conversations, really great guests, incredible, inspiring stories. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Life After Ministry podcast. Our mission is to help you navigate the complexities, the joys, and sometimes even the beautiful moments of life after ministry. Whether you're a ministry leader thinking about a transition or a stakeholder in the decision-making process, we hope these conversations bring you both clarity and comfort. And we believe that any transition can really be a gateway to transformation, and that there's not just life after ministry, but there's also ministry after ministry. If you found value in today's episode, consider subscribing to this podcast, and don't hesitate to share it with anyone that you think might benefit. The journey is sacred, and we're committed to walking alongside you, providing resources, encouragement, and a community where stories are heard and valued. And until next time, keep leaning into these opportunities, these transitions, these transformations, and the challenges that come with life after ministry.